Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jazz from the West Ham Irons channel, and this is a new West Ham weekly news delivered show. I've got my good friend Frankie with me. Frankie, is it that kind of week where you're happy you've reached Friday, or has it been not too bad this week?
No, I'm very, very happy it's Friday, mate. I woke up saying that this morning. I was like, so glad that week is done and behind us, mate. It was a tough one, but we're still here, mate, and we're still plodding on, so we're all good.
Yeah, still in there, still hanging in there, and yeah, we
That's
haven't had
it.
a game for a good while, have we? Had a bit of a break. I've not certainly done any shows since the last sort of game. So yeah, refreshed, ready back, and then yeah, got Everton coming at the weekend, and it's been a lot of news sort of coming through. I don't know if it's people just itching to do a show, and obviously reading into a lot of news that's perhaps likely not true or silly rumors. And but I don't know if you've been listening. Yeah, all kinds of news. I mean, today's April Fool's Day, so I mean, I've not been done today. I hope everything's been going according to plan. I think I remember, back in the days when we used to read the Sun, the Mirror, there always used to be something in there, didn't there?
Yeah.
I remember one. Do you remember the one where they thought we were going to be sponsored by Ann Summers and we're going to have a pink kit?
Yeah, I do, mate. I do. Very good. But I missed that a little bit actually, because I think modern day football social media is so, I don't know what the word is, but everyone takes it so literal and everyone gets so upset on there that I think people struggle to have that bit of banter now. And I miss it, mate. Banter's what it's all about. And, lightens the mood, it lightens your day, and we should all be able to have a laugh. But it all seems to be a bit too serious on football social media. So we could do with bringing a bit of that back, mate, to be honest.
It is. I think definitely. I think, I don't know if it's a West Ham thing, but we certainly do internally upset each other more often than not. And that's a shame. Because the last thing I would ever do is actually, I do love an argument, but not with West Ham fans. Funny enough, I don't. I'm not really.
It's not an argument. Debate.
Yeah,
We're allowed
but
to debate. Debating in football is a good thing. We all should have differences of opinions, and
I think,
if it's in the context of when you're in a pub and you're having a debate with your pals, that's all good. But people think it's an argument these days. It's not an argument, is it?
That's how I got to know you. Do you remember, like, we were talking about David Moyes and I came on your show, and
that's the
cousin. So, like you said, you can make new friends, and away we go. And yeah, it's all about opinions.
Mate. Just because you've got a difference of opinion to someone else, mate, doesn't mean you have to fall out, hate each other, kick off of each other. There's nothing wrong with having a difference of opinion, and I think we need to learn that a little bit with how things are right now.
We do. Obviously, around 5:30 UK time will be the World Cup draw. Certainly starting. I don't know when they're gonna start doing it, but perhaps an hour after that. So, again, mate, your feelings towards the World Cup and Gareth Southgate, who for me I'm not a great fan of, mate. I've got to be honest. But we do seem to have the best squad ever, I think, at England, isn't it, at the moment, in terms of the pool of players to pick from?
I think it's a good squad. I think, this is the first time we've ever been on one of these kind of runs where we're actually pushing ourselves into the official rankings. I think England always would, draw a dodgy friendly or get beat in a dodgy friendly, but we seem to take all of the games a little bit more serious than we have done in recent years. And I think that record of Southgate since the beginning of 2021 it's a fantastic record, and you can't knock it. Other than losing to Italy on penalties and another draw somewhere else in there, I don't think we've lost a game. So it's good times to be an England supporter. I don't find the friendlies particularly interesting. I've got to admit, I didn't mind the Nations League. I thought it had at least a bit more competitive nature to it, and I found it a lot more interesting than just the bog standard friendly. I think it's a bit silly expecting Declan Rice to be captain the other day. I think obviously that took over social media and went crazy, and everyone thought he might actually get the armband. But I don't think Southgate was ever going to give him the armband. But one comment he made wound me up. I don't actually mind Southgate. I've got no real major issues with him. But the one comment he made is the comment where he said, Declan Rice has all the attributes to become a captain. I know he's talking about England, but the way he said it was a captain in general. And it was like, you do realise he's already captaining West Ham to a fantastic couple of seasons in a quarter-final of a European competition. You know, he's already doing it. So we know he's got all the attributes. And, you know, Sterling, before the game, I thought Rice is so much more of a captain than Sterling will ever be.
Yeah.
But Sterling led by example. He come out, he got himself involved in the game. He got a goal, got an assist, and he had a really good game. So, but I'd be really disappointed if Sterling was to captain us in the World Cup. I think that would be a bit of a mistake, to be honest.
Yeah, I think captains are very hard to find these days in the modern game. I think back in the 70s, 80s, every team did have one real one. And yeah, we don't have too many of those, do we? So I think we're lucky. Yeah, certainly at club level at West Ham. And for England, Rice seems to not hide away from that fact. And well, what are your comments on Maguire getting a reasonable stick from fans? I don't know if it's Liverpool fans. Is it? My son reckons, mate, it's Man United fans as well, on a large scale. Yeah,
I would say it's more Man United than anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool fans boo anything, mate. They're just the most ridiculous supporters in the world who think it's good to boo the national anthem. What a bunch of idiots they are. I've got no time for Liverpool fans whatsoever, so it wouldn't surprise me with what they're doing. But I think it probably was a lot of United fans. Mate, everyone says to me, it's always at Wembley. I saw on the opinions on social media that it's always at Wembley he gets booed. Well, when I went during the Euros, the song that was sung more than anything else was Harry Maguire's song, and it was sung continuously. So you know, the thing is, I don't agree with people saying fans can't have this opinion. You know, it's not good to boo your own players. I'm not sure it was justified on an England level. I think it was more of his domestic performance that people were booing and criticising him. But we, as fans, we pay our money. We travel a long way. You know, it's a big commitment for supporters to follow, especially England, home and away.
Yeah.
And if the fans want to boo because they're not happy with something, then they are entitled to express their real feelings, mate. So, you know, all these players coming out and knocking the supporters, well, just remember who follows you up and down, you know, across European seas and makes their way to Andorra's and, you know, all these really difficult to get to countries. And if the fans ain't happy, mate, then they're allowed to have that opinion. And that's as simple as that.
Yeah. Was it Lampard who used to get it? I'm not sure. It was one of them used to get, one of the Chelsea players used to get it, I think.
Yeah.
Whilst playing for England. But before we move on from the international level and concentrate on our club, obviously Italy are not there. A very late goal, and Capello put it down to tactics. What he called was the Man City type tactics of passing too many balls sideways and tippy tappy football instead of trying to just get it in there and put it away. So they've gone out, mate. And when I look at things like Pot 2 and I look at some of the teams, mate, like Switzerland, every tournament, and I don't know how they get in there. And then once the tournament starts, they don't really offer much. But we'll see where we end up. Germany Pot 2, mate, amazing, eh? Pot 2. Looks like Portugal have replaced
Germany and Netherlands that are in there. Netherlands is also an option in it, I think.
Yeah. Portugal own Pot 1. Qatar, obviously, as a host, have to be Pot 1. Belgium are in there because they recently had a good team. And obviously, we're in there after a long time, I think, as well. And I mean, usually, I'm looking at Pot 3 and my eyes have gone to Poland because we always used to get Poland, didn't we? A lot of the times. And Pot 4, you've got Wales or Scotland in there, mate. Or Australia in there, mate. But then another point is, mate, who's travelling out there? I don't know. Let's see.
It's not for me, mate. I got to say, you couldn't pay me to go over there and watch that. I've got no interest in it whatsoever.
I've never been to that part of the world. I have certainly been to Dubai Airport via another flight, and mate, the heat, I can't explain. Just walking through, there was a terminal. There's people out there working. I'm like, oh my god, I cook eggs out there, mate, on the floor. It's like, it's madness, mate. But not for me, mate. Not for me. Let's get back into our beloved club, mate. And obviously, some people like it, some people don't. But one thing you can't stop is rumours. And okay, West Ham minus 21. You've got one fee agreed for Lyon striker David. I don't know anything about that, mate. But the one, obviously, that's talking about, and one or two things not sure if it's rumours, perhaps as who you'd want, and I think you wanted to kickstart and talk about a Rashford, who I absolutely can't stand, mate. But take it away, Rashford. Was it some kind of poll, West Ham poll? Was it?
Yeah, it was on a Twitter poll. Quite a few people had sort of, given their
Yeah.
answer, and it was, do you think you'd be a good signing for us? And I clicked the no button, expecting, quite a heavy amount of people to also have the same opinion. But 70% went the other way, and 70% said he'd be a really good signing for West Ham. I think people have totally missed what we're all about at the moment. Completely, it's gone over their head. And to have somebody like that with attitude, with a lazy nature, somebody who, has gone against the fans the other day and made threats, and just all of that is so opposite to what we're all about right now. We're about togetherness, hard working. Can you imagine we sign a lazy trainer, someone who's lazy on the pitch, on 100 grand a week more than every other player that we've got in our squad? How much that would aggravate them, wind them up, piss them off. I just, mate, it couldn't be, not because of his ability. I understand his ability. He's a very, very good footballer on his day when he's actually interested in playing football. But in terms of his temperament and his way he would be in that dressing room, there couldn't be a worse signing for us than Marcus Rashford.
I certainly think so. And it would have been a kind of a signing Harry Redknapp would have looked at, because it's a player who is on the slide downwards, isn't he? He's not been in form. He obviously missed a penalty in the final. I don't want to go into that. It can happen to anyone. But he's certainly, for a good 2 seasons, he's been completely off it. I don't know what he's doing, and obviously he's getting the stick because he's doing things online more in the media rather than concentrating on football. And he's just sulks too much, doesn't get involved a lot. He's certainly not going to run the way we do at the moment and track back and those type of things. So, not for me. And hopefully the club's moved on from trying to buy players who are out of form, overpriced, and that kind of thing, really. The other one was Phillips Leeds. That's come up again. And again, perhaps rumours where David has told them that due to 2 very average windows, that I don't care what the price is, we got to get 1 or 2 bodies in like him very early on, and perhaps a fee's been agreed around 55 million for him. Obviously, if we get him in, obviously people are going to think, that's just to replace Rice eventually and things like that. But as an individual player, do you like him? And 55, 60 million, what kind of price is that kind of fair for a player like that?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. Obviously, the injury that he's got at the moment, and he hasn't played a lot of football, is a little bit worrying. I think Rice plays. Do you know what? I'm not even going to say it. I was about to say a stupid comment there that would have really backfired and come back to bite me in the arse there, but I'm not going to say it. But his injury is a little bit worrying. You don't want a player like that who continuously gets injured on that sort of money. That would be no good for us at all. But on his day, mate, very, very good player. I think he's the obvious replacement for Rice. I think he's the one that just makes sense. He's already in the Premier League. He's shown he can do it at Premier League level. I don't think there's much to pick between the two when I watch them in the Euros. But I think Rice this season has kicked on a bit more than him and has shown a bit more, mainly because, Phillips isn't playing. But I think Rice has maybe got that edge to sort of kick on and do more in his career than Phillips has. I don't know. When you just see a player and they just make sense for the club that they're at. I saw him at the boxing the other night at the Josh Warrington game, and you've got Luke Ayling and you've got Phillips, and they're just real typical Leeds type players.
Yeah.
And what always worries me when you get a player like that is when you take them out of there and you put them into a different team, sometimes they're never quite the same. And it worries me that he could come over and not quite meet that same potential, not quite be the same player he is at Leeds. And if we're forking out that sort of money, it's dangerous. But like I say, if you are getting rid of Rice, the obvious signing is Phillips. I would love to think that, Moyes and the club have sat down with Rice and said, look, who do you want to be alongside you? If we're going to go and make a big signing in the summer, and basically bring someone in to complement you and play alongside you, who would you want? And if Rice has gone, Phillips is the man that I want to play with, and we're actually going out there to try and bring somebody in who's going to show Rice the ambition that they have got, and that he may then stick around if we go and build, a bit of a team around him in the next few years, then that would be good to see. But I'm not so sure that's the case. So
Yeah, I mean, you got Basuma, who Villa are going to press ahead and go quite close to getting. I like Ward-Prowse, a slightly different type of player, more attacking. I think there are times in the game when I keep saying that nothing's happening. It's a dead game. We're not opening up the opposition, and perhaps Ward-Prowse can kind of help us with that. Or you got Basuma, and don't forget if one of them comes in, and Souček's obviously can rotate between 2-3 of them anyway in the middle of his watch what we need, because Kral is obviously been a complete waste of a loan deal with 10 million gone down the drain. That was a pretty odd one, wasn't it, mate? Kral, God.
Do you know what it was, mate? But I watched that training video that West Ham released this week. There was a couple of things I pick out from that, but Kral was one of them. Kral was very involved in being in the middle of the games, being in the middle of all the training sessions. He didn't seem like a man who wasn't interested. He seemed to be training with a lot of energy. He seemed to be heavily involved. I didn't see an issue, but weirdly, it was the same with Diop. Diop was talking to every player out there. He was communicating. He was pushing people. I was really surprised at Diop. He certainly didn't look like a man with a lack of confidence, and he certainly didn't look like a man who was on his way out of the football club. So I was really surprised that both Kral and Diop in that training video, both being so integral to what was going on and the drills that they were doing. I was very surprised. And Kral didn't look like someone who was out of place, mate. He really didn't. So maybe we haven't given him enough of a chance. Maybe we should have given him more of a run.
Yeah, alongside that rumour with Phillips was Calvin Lewin, the Everton guy, who again, mate, big time injury prone, isn't he? Struggling, isn't he? Like Bamford at Leeds, and offering perhaps what Benrahma in a swap deal. I mean, I think if we're going to sign any player, and any player of ours is going to go anywhere, and we're going to get some reasonable money for, and David Moyes will perhaps support it, it's Benrahma, I think, for me, mate. I think that's my feeling, especially because I think Lingard's his darling. If Lingard eventually does come, then Benrahma's probably going to be perhaps offered to other clubs, mate.
Yeah. A lot of opinions that, Benrahma, hello, Hammers Fans United. Very well, thank you. So I think a lot of people I've heard say that Benrahma's the man who should start this weekend over Fornals, and that Benrahma's the man who's maybe in a bit better form than Fornals right now. I still see a lot of people really backing him and really thinking that Benrahma's hitting a bit of a purple patch. I'm not saying I can see quite the same there, to be perfectly honest. But that's the general opinion of the fans. So
Kevin Moyes hates Kral's poodle haircut. He wants bulldogs.
Shave it off.
I mean, he obviously it's difficult. That's why even Areola, it's difficult when you're never playing, and then you have to show something, don't you? Otherwise, you're going to be out again. And against Kidderminster, Kral again was all over the place, I think, like a few of the others. So that I thought would be the last time we'd see him, and perhaps that's kind of true. I'm not too sure. The other story, perhaps good news, is yesterday there was not rumours, but actual confirmations that Bowen's kind of joined in, isn't he, with light training, I think.
He wasn't in the first team video that was released this week, which was a bit of a shame to see that, to be honest. I was hoping he was a bit further forward than that. But again, I'm quite happy not to see him until the Lyon games. I think they're the ones where you really need him back. It would have been nice for him to have a game before that, because I think everyone needs to get their touch back when you have a bit of a layout, and you can only get so much from training. So I would have preferred to see him have a game before that game. But if we get him ready for then, that over that period, those couple of games there, the 2 Lyon games and the one in between, mate, he's going to be so important. So we need him.
Hammerhead mentioning Diop again. He splits the fan base. I've kind of would sell him, I think. Diop, good age. Hopefully someone can get some money back for him.
Do you know the only thing that upsets me with that though, mate, right? He's looked good in training. The last 2 games Diop played, when Diop played against Leicester, he dealt with Daka fantastically well. He actually started to grow in confidence again. He had 2 really good games back to back, really good games. And we haven't seen him since. And if you want someone to build confidence and you want someone to, start to find their form again, you can't let him have 2 good games and then completely drop him again and never see him. And if you're going to do things like that, then you're right. You are better off selling him because he's never going to get back to where he was. You've got to have a bit of faith in him. And if he has a good game, you've got to stick with him. And I thought he had 2 really strong games, and it was quite sad to see him then just completely dropped and not feature since. So a bit disappointing that.
Yeah, and then Ogbonna, I think he was back swimming, wasn't he? A few pictures of him during the week. Again, for me, there's always an injury in for Oggy, isn't it? He's never done a full season for us, I think, if I'm right. And when he did go injured, God, he did look good, didn't he?
Really. Yeah, so and that's a tough old injury to come back from that, mate. He will have lost a little bit of pace from that, and it will take him a long while to get back to the level that he used to be at for us. I hope he does manage it, but let's be honest now, mate, he's on the decline in terms of his age now, and we really kind of need to draw a line under him anyway. Let's be honest, a couple of seasons ago he was written off and we was done with him, and then all of a sudden he had this resurgence and started playing really well again. People forget those things, but he was literally done with us. It was finished. Everyone was saying, he's gone. We won't see him play again. He's not good enough. And then all of a sudden he started hit a bit of form again and put in some really strong performances from us. But, it's that old thing, isn't it? You have that, I don't know, you have that romance with a player that, does really well for you, similar to the Reed situation. And, you don't want to move on from them because they've been such a good servant, such a good player. But I think we always seem to hold on that little bit too long. And we never planned for them going down that decline. We've never got the next person ready to come in and step into those boots. If Ogbonna goes and Diop goes, I'm afraid, and people don't like this opinion, but I don't think Dawson's anywhere near good enough to be our first choice centre half. I think we know we've got Zuma, but we've got a big centre half gap to fill there. And I think we really need to go out and recruit, but not somebody who's 30 years of age. I think we need to go and invest properly in a centre half for the next 5 years.
Isn't it Milenkovic? I think that's all that news is coming out now.
He's the one, but again, mate, the same stories come up every time there's an international break.
Gentleman's agreement.
Drives you mad.
Yeah,
it does drive you mad a little bit.
What I've seen of him, he's the one I wanted. He's very physical and he looks good. But it's going to be a case of every player we go for. Tottenham are going to be in there, Newcastle, Villa. Going back to your sort of comment, Hammerhead, I think Coutinho is the one Villa are going to firm up, I think. So perhaps not any room for another player. And they've got Bundia as well, mate. They've got they're benched they've got 35 million players on the bench. So I can't see that one happening, mate. Benny does well, but Moyes is never happy.
He isn't a Moyes player. They don't get on. And I think that will always hold him back from hitting his full potential. I think you can see he's got the reins on all the time. You can see he's scared to shoot. You can see he's scared to take on a player and try that bit of magic that he used to have when he used to play for Brentford. They just don't get on, mate. And that's it. And if a player doesn't suit, then move them on. Move them on before we run them into the ground like we do every other player. Why is it we bury a player and make them worthless before we ever try and sell them? Hammerhead's just said it there. We was offered 50 million for Diop once. What would you get for him now? What did we end up getting for Anderson? What did we end up getting for Haller? We almost sell them once they're worth nothing. We can't keep doing that. And at the moment, Benrahma still has that little bit of respect and people still think he's a really top player. So why he's in this slight purple patch that people seem to believe he's in, maybe now's the time to cash in, mate.
I think Palace offered 20 for Antonio a good few years ago under Roy Hodgson, wasn't it?
Yeah, 20, they did, 25, mate.
I think, and they went in again a couple of seasons after him again. Really, the other news, mate, because there's been so many things going on. I thought I have to get this show out, and hopefully we'll have a regular slot for this show every week with yourself, mate. But we'll see how it goes. Lanzini, mate.
Crazy.
The car flipping, wasn't it? On the A13, I think.
Just glad that he's come away unscathed, supposedly, which is brilliant news. But how fast has your chauffeur got to be going to do that to a car, mate?
It wasn't Baz,
normal,
was it?
Baz has gone and rolled it.
No, Baz got good weighting and the car wouldn't roll over with Baz, and it's stable.
Yes, very stable with our Baz. Love that.
But yeah, that would be West Ham way, where we would perhaps lose a player for a little while due to that, mate, wouldn't it? Because I remember, right, a little bit before you, perhaps, the 1991 FA Cup semi-final, Forest and Trevor Morley got stabbed by his wife a few weeks before the game. We lost our main striker, mate, due to that. I mean,
yeah,
some of the things that happened to us.
This is such typical West Ham, isn't it? Like, you know,
Yeah.
Lanzini's just, I would say Lanzini's hit more of a purple patch than Ben Rama has. I think Lanzini, while he's not looked amazing, I think it's the best he's looked in a long while for us. I think he looks energetic. I think he looks to make things happen. I think he works hard in that number 10 role. I think he also is a little bit creative in there. I actually think he's been quite pivotal to the last few games that we've played and the couple of wins that we've had. And he was just starting to come back to Lanzini type form. So for this to happen is just so typical West Ham. We just, yeah, and especially we're coming up to this crucial crunch period for us. Like, mate, Everton is so big. Like, I cannot even express how massive that game is for us. That is your normal, typical, a team hasn't won in ages. Up comes West Ham. You know, we desperately need to win. They come and roll us over. It is just so typical West Ham. And I'm just praying, mate, that we're not going to see that. And, you know, those 3 points we're desperate for. If we're going to maintain this, you know, top 6, top 7, has to be 3 points on Sunday.
I'll tell you what, talking about crucial for us, mate, I think it's slightly more for them. They're 4th from bottom, and yeah, very important for them. But like you said, the last thing we needed, obviously, well, they weren't playing so well, so we wanted to play them quickly. They've had a break to regroup, and not sure how many players have been on international break. And obviously, Mr. Lampard he'll like to get one over us, I think. And Everton are one of those teams who, we do sometimes,
If you look at that, it's got such the makings of us blowing it here. It really has. Lampard, you know, the fact that they're fighting for their lives, you know, the fact they've had a little break to regroup, the fact that we're so desperate for those points as well. In old West Ham times, this is the game that we go and slip up with. In recent times, we come through these games and we kind of got rid of that old West Ham traits that we used to have. So fingers crossed, we're not going to blow this one. But, you know, Souček playing, you know, as much as he did the other night. I know he got his goal, but he played a lot of that. He played the 90 minutes in that game. And Rice playing as much as he did. Difficult, mate. I think, you know, our 2 centre midfielders there, which could have really done with a bit of a break, have both ended up playing a lot of minutes. So, disappointing that.
I think there's going to be 5-6 goals in this game, mate. Everton West Ham. I think it's going to be really open. And the way I've seen Everton, because Lampard, I don't really rate him as a coach in terms of organisation, tactics, and defending. Don't think he's got it in him. And I think it's going to be, we'll have a go at you have a go at us, and hopefully 3-2 to us or something like that. I mean, looking at the table, we're 7th, mate, and I can't see us catching anyone up now, mate. United, Tottenham, Arsenal, for me, they've gone. The challenge is to keep Wolves below us now, I think, as far as I can see. There's a nice cushion between us and Villa of 12 points, but they still got a game in hand over us. Leicester have got 3 games in hand, but they're, still 12 behind us. So, and wasn't it weird how we, obviously with two other clubs, we played the most games in the league, and then after our European game, we quickly had to play Spurs, 2-3 days later, and no one else was bloody playing. And I know that's...
But again, mate, that's the naivety of this club. We don't play the game. You know, these clubs above us, they're a bit more experienced. They're a bit more savvy. They've played a game. You know, they got games called off when they felt they needed to. And we just... whatever the Premier League throw at us, we just go, okay, we'll play. That's no good, mate. We should have, you know, at least played some of the games that the other clubs did. And I think we're going to suffer for that, to be honest.
You better tell Hammerhead about your channel, mate, because he said he's seen you somewhere. It's ringing the bell in his head, mate.
Yeah, well, Claret and Blue Army TV was our channel, but that was predominantly to raise money for Isla, and obviously we don't really have a case or a cause to support anymore. I think we would potentially bring it back in the future if we found a cause that we wanted to support, but we never set up that channel to be something that we wanted to grow for our own gain, or to run Patreon like some of these other channels, or to whatever. It was purely to help support a good cause. And we did put out a little message to say, does anybody know of any causes that we could get involved in and support like we did previously? But unfortunately nobody came forth with one of those. We are on the lookout, so if we do find one, you may see us back in the future. But for the time being, mate, I'm very much enjoying being a guest on your wonderful channel.
Cheers, mate. Nice. The other news was obviously good friends of the channel, Claret and Booze. I haven't watched it yet. I will. They're appearing to mention that there's a huge or reasonable hike in season ticket prices next season. I don't know if you've heard anything different, or I do expect it. If we certainly, as we're looking now, we're getting towards the latter stages of Europa and the top 7 finish. But it might be bad of me saying it, but I still think in London our prices are really good compared to Chelsea and Spurs and Arsenal and things like that. The food prices are stupid. I've said that because the quality is just not there that matches it, and it's got to a level now where I try to eat before I get to the ground. I don't want to pay £8 for a average burger and things like that, really. So for you, I don't know if have you heard anything about the prices being hiked up or anything?
I can't say I have, to be honest, but it is to be expected. I think when you have a bit of success and you have a good season, there's no better time for them to put the pricing up. I think it's been frozen for a long while. We've seen very minimal increases since we moved to that stadium. So let's be honest, mate, we're due one. And like you said, we have had really, really low cost football. I think my season ticket where I am is 280 quid. I think 280 quid for a season ticket is a steal. So
that's a good night out for us, Frankie.
That's exactly right, mate. That's the Uber home. So,
well, my Uber was it 67 quid, and the cheeky sod tried to stick another, because I don't use Uber. I just don't like them, and my son's account we use, and he tried to stick another 20 on when we got out the car and next morning, but it's all fine now, it's all sorted. But I just don't like them, mate, because of that.
No, I mean, it's difficult. I've got a long way to travel. I think if I did a black cab from outside the West Ham ground, you're probably looking at 250 quid. If I do it through Uber, it's about 130. So it saves me, over 100 quid. I couldn't not do that, to be honest. That's too big a saving. So
what's your feelings about, once again, it's a non-Europa weekend, and we with another match have been stuck playing Sunday again, mate, when it could have been different.
It's not right, mate. The amount of Sunday games we've had has been a liberty, to be honest. And again, it's the club not backing the fans. At the end of the day, as a fan, there's no better time than Saturday at 3:00. That's when football should be played.
Yeah.
That is the perfect time for football to be played. And there's a reason why games were Saturday at 3:00 for such a long period of time. That's how it should be. The fact that we keep getting these Sunday games, mate, it's just not fair on people who have work. It's not fair on people who have travel, because trains are so difficult on a Sunday. It's just not on. And the club shouldn't be allowing it, mate. They should be kicking back and saying, no, you can't keep changing our games to Sundays. It's not fair on our supporters. It's not fair on our fans. And they should try and do a little bit more. I'm not saying that they will be able to change anything, because let's be honest, the Premier League are the almighty, and money talks, and they're going to do whatever they want. But it's not on, mate. It's not fair on us. And we always seem to be the team that get the short straw and have to move our games around all the time. And in the old days, you used to say it was because of the trouble at Upton Park. If it was a Tottenham game or it was a Chelsea game, it was ice. Moved to 12:00 on a Sunday because, you can't get too drunk before the game, and it gets rid of some of the trouble that might be had. But I don't see any reason for it this season. It just seems like they've just always wanted to do it to us. But you don't know, do you, mate? You don't know if behind the scenes, whether Westfield how busy Westfield is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You just don't know if actually we have to request these Sunday games. You just don't know, do you?
I think so. And my view was because obviously we're playing Lyon on the Thursday, so you have an extra day rest, don't you, if you play Saturday? And I just looked at Lyon's fixtures. Luckily, mate, they're playing Sunday at 4:00. So they're playing Sunday as well, a bit later than us at home, so they don't have to travel. So at least we don't have to travel for the Lyon game or Everton. So that's kind of something good, mate. What are you expecting for Lyon, mate? I know there's one thing that got me annoyed this morning. Again, mate, you're gonna kind of mad if you haven't heard, is that they have bought a really good winger from Shakhtar Donetsk under this one window, which I've completely forgotten about, mate. There's a window opened in Europe, which the Premier League clubs I've heard got together and decided we're not going to do it to make it fair. But Lyon have gone out and certainly grabbed him, and he can play, mate. He can play in that game.
Mate, I've seen what players like that are like when they come from there. In Vlasic, I ain't worried, I can tell you.
But it's not right, is it? This late in the day, you can, because they can bring another one. I don't know if they already got the other one, because they're 10th in the league. I don't know why they're struggling. I know they've got Dembele up front, 1 goal in 2 he gets, but it is the French league, mate. You know, it is what it is. Yeah, Lyon, I'm quite confident over 2 legs to sneak it into the semis, mate.
I had a feeling with Seville, and I get these gut feelings, and they're not often wrong. And I knew that we'd won that game against Seville before it even kicked off, mate. I knew we would not lose that game. It was written in the stars. We was going to win that game. I haven't got that feeling with Lyon. Everything's telling me to stay away from that away leg. I think the away leg being there is tough. I think our lack of experience hasn't shown in this competition yet, because I don't think it's necessarily been needed. Going out to Seville, it was just get a result that you can hold on to, but we never get beat by more than 1 goal anyway. There was that stat recently of, I can't remember how long it was until we played Arsenal, and Arsenal beat us 2-0, but we hadn't been beaten by more than 1 goal for ages, so many games. So that's not anything unusual. And then we came back to the London Stadium, and even their fans said, your supporters carried that team to that victory. And it was electric. It was incredible.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
This time, there's a lot more game management that needs to be involved. What do you, mate? I don't, David Moyes has got such a big decision here, and I don't know how he should play it. Do you go and try and get a couple of goals so you've got something to hold on to when you go out there? Do you keep it tight and make sure you don't concede against? I know there's no away goal, so it don't matter if they concede, but do you want to just try and take a 1-0 over there, or is a 2-1 good enough? I just don't know, mate. And I just don't know if you need to try and get the job done in the first leg and go all guns blazing and try and, virtually have the game won when you go out there, because they're going to, like we did, we rocked the gaff over here. They're going to do the same out there, mate. That new stadium they've got is massive, and they'll make a lot of noise out there. Don't worry about that. So even if we've got a 2-goal head start, which I'm not sure we will, I still think it's going to be a real tough ask out there, mate. I think it's going to be really, really difficult. So, yeah, I don't know. They're this team this season where they're either fantastic or they're bang average, and you don't know which one's going to turn up. So, tough.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Hammerhead. A bit like West Ham, where we're kind of not sure where we're going to end up in Europe or not next season. Yeah, we're a couple of matches away in the Champions League, mate. I mean, clubs are really focusing on this. What about, are you focusing on Europa, or are you still looking at both sides of the league? Yeah,
you can't, mate. You've got to.
Yeah.
I don't think top 4 was ever on. I think the talk around top 4 was ridiculous anyway. I don't think we ever had the squad to maintain that till the end of the season. And I don't think at any point we realistically had any chance of being in the top 4. Even at Christmas, I don't think we did. But that top 7 is critical to us. And I would be gutted if we miss out on that, especially knowing if you didn't have Barca in the next round and you couldn't meet them till the final, and you was going to draw one from the Rangers game, then I would say, do you know what? Go and have a go. But the fact you got Barca in the next round, the likelihood of getting to the final is seriously limited. I think we just have to make sure we get back-to-back seasons of European football, whether that be Conference League or Europa League. We've just got to make sure we got European football again. So for me, that Everton game, that's why I'm saying it's so important, because, you know, if we come 8th, it's a travesty for this season. Absolute travesty.
Yeah, because we went close last season, and hopefully we get back in. And I mean, I was looking at that UEFA where they maintain a league of points, don't they? The more you're in Europe, the further you go over the years, you accumulate points. So I think we're 75th at the moment. And obviously, if we keep going and regularly in Europe, year in, year out, you go up in the league, don't you? Slowly. So that's kind of quite important in terms of seedings going forward and things like that, mate. But I don't know why the draw always unkind for us. I mean, hopefully, if we get Barcelona, don't we? So not easy either. We managed to avoid Rangers again, Braga again. And am I right in the way I'm thinking? Are you thinking Atlanta are the best team in the tournament, are you, or Barcelona, you think? Or Leon? There's not much
Barcelona
between
have got to be, mate.
Yeah.
By a mile, only because their recent changes they've made of. However, I say that I think they'd be really surprised to play a team like us. I think if we get in their faces like we did in that home game against Seville, I think we've got half a chance. I wouldn't be sitting here completely writing us off against the Barcelona side, but you've seen it time and time again in the European competitions, like when Celtic beat them. You know, it can be done, and apparently I don't. But apparently Moyes, as Real Sociedad manager, he managed to beat Barcelona 4-3 or something, or whatever it was. So, you know, I think Moyes will fancy a go at that, and I think the whole team will fancy a go at that. Do you know what? It's going to be one of them games where you've got nothing to lose, and I like being in that position. I think that would, but again, what's your chances, mate? Just to go to the Nou Camp would be everything to me as a West Ham fan. I never ever thought I'd see the day of West Ham in the Nou Camp. That's a dream come true. Just being there,
that's why I wanted them in this round. Round, so that's the reason for that, really. So we'll see what happens, really. So Hammerhead, we beaten Atlanta. Yes, I have been told that we have. It must have been one of those pre-season sort of tournaments. I'm not sure, but we certainly have, and we've could have got their striker in, couldn't we? 5 million over the line.
Yeah.
Our good old admin department were too late in sending the same, and 5 million you would have been, which is a quite a good snipper, that really. The other thing was obviously in terms of the tickets, the club are selling a lot of tickets, aren't they? Like Leon was probably 95% gone, wasn't it, after 2 days, I think. And then they're all gone, and then they're back again. And some people have managed to get tickets by changing their VPN. They've managed to buy tickets at the Leon end, I think, because so that's all going on now up there. I think that's
not a game you really want to go to the away end, that one, mate. It's a bit different. It's a little bit different.
Oh, I don't think so. Barcelona is, like I was mentioning before we started the show, that I would be more than happy to do it at that one. I've never done it before. That one I'll be fine at, I think.
But just want to touch upon that, mate, because there was a lot of opinions and a lot of arguments on social media with regards to season ticket holders being allowed 6 tickets per season ticket holder. Do you know what the biggest problem is with social media football, with YouTube football, you know, all these things these days, is everyone wants to have an opinion rather than actually ask the question as to the reason why something is in a particular way. And that really winds me up, because people try and put 2 and 2 together, come up with their own answers. Mate, you don't know the answers. You're not qualified to know the answer. So just ask the question. So I actually asked the ticket office and had a chat with them about, you know, the reasons why 6 tickets were being allowed to be sold together with season ticket holders. And the actual reason is that when they put these tickets out to season ticket holders to renew their own seats, only a very small percentage of season ticket holders actually choose their own seat, and they don't actually choose that, and they don't renew their seat for that game because they actually want to change the scenery. So they try and sit somewhere else in the ground. But by season ticket holders move into other parts of the ground, it means there's lots of single seats that get left that the club really struggle to sell. And even if they do manage to sell those single seats, what happens is people then want to go and sit with their friend or with the people they normally go with, which then causes chaos for the stewards, for the seating plan, for people arguing, you're in my seat and all this sort of thing. And it becomes an absolute mess. So with season ticket holders, normally you've got a massive block of people who you know where they're sitting. That's all covered. And then the single seats are dotted around. But when all the season ticket holders move, that throws all of that seating plan out completely. So what you end up with is this nightmare scenario, one for selling the tickets and two for people wanting to sit in different seats than what they've actually purchased. And it becomes a logistical nightmare. So they allow season ticket holders to buy blocks of 6 to try and fill in as much of those gaps as possible, which then allows people to sit with their family members, friends, whoever they want to go with. And that's the reason why they do it. So there is logic behind the reason they do it. They don't do it to let season ticket holders buy up all the tickets and resell them on the aftermarket. And I actually don't think many season ticket holders did buy them to sell. I've got people who are not season ticket holders who come with me and may have been to 80% of the home games with me this year. Well, they're coming with me and I bought their tickets for them. So they are proper fans. They're fans who have been to most games this season. They may have missed a couple. So I haven't bought them to resell them. So I think some of the drama that was caused could have been avoided by people actually just thinking, what's the common sense here? And maybe we should just ask what the reason is, as opposed to all throwing our toys out of our pram and having a go at each other.
It's interesting you say that. In the last game, Europa, I forgot to get my seats in time, but then it worked better for me because for the same price, I sat 12 rows ahead in the same area where I am. So that's another example how it works out sometimes. And then the other interesting thing is I became a season ticket holder when Pellegrini was sacked, when everyone gave their tickets back. So when that happened, everyone gave their tickets back and I was like, happy days, I've got 3 of them. And then hoping and praying that, like what's happening this season, for that day to come. That's why we become season tickets, so that you go regularly, you're loyal, you're there when we're home to Burnley, Brighton, as well as the AA games, and then you benefit from that, don't you? Sometimes, really. So, like you said, you got to look at both sides of it, isn't it? You've gone all season, and then you've got that slight advantage to get tickets before someone who, perhaps, there's many of them there. Who I'll give you an example, like Liverpool fans who I absolutely can't stand. I know people who've only gone to 3 or 4 games the last 5 years. They've only been finals. So they've stopped someone going to a final who's a regular, which is a bit naughty, but they do manage to somehow rig it and they go to only finals, even Champions League. They won't go to any other game like that, really. Hi, Jake. Sorry, mate. Jake, how are you? You all right? It's like those kids programs you used to have in the morning. You know, you read their names out, though. Brilliant. Thanks for joining in, mate. Hammerhead, what's your lad's opinion? Reece Oxford. I don't know. Okay, so he wants to come back to the Premiership. All I know about this guy, mate, I was on holiday in, I think it was Cyprus. We were playing Arsenal, weren't we? Bilic's first game at Highbury. And I came out the pool just to check the half-time final score. I could not believe it when and it's from that, and throughout, since that game and all the papers, next day, we apparently is looking like we'd found the next Rio Ferdinand, the next Bobby Moore. Bilic played him in an amazing holding role, great tactics, totally outshone Wenger on the day. And I thought the guys arrived. But don't know what happened. All these rumours of not being very level-headed or professional off the pitch, and few things like that, mate. So I've not really followed him since he threw tantrum and left the club, mate. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I did at the start because I was intrigued as to see how he got on. So very early on, I did follow him a little bit, and he seemed to start doing okay. But what worries me, mate, is what do I know? I'm not a football expert, but I was going to say that the fact he wasn't prepared to stay and fight for his position and try and work his way into a team shows a bit of lack of character there. However, maybe he had the right idea. He went away. He went to a different league. He learnt his trade where he was going to get first team football. He seems to have, improved as a player and come on as a player and has been in decent form. And now he wants to come back to the Premier League. So maybe what he did was exactly the right thing for him to do, mate. Would I have him back with us? I don't think he left in necessarily bad terms, did he? You know, I know. Well, he did a little bit. He did throw his toys out of his pram a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't know. It would be really interesting just to see. Yeah, and you know, Hammerhead just said there in a recent interview he needed to grow up, and that's fine. I think as long as he has grown up, we just said it with Rashford. We don't need any of these characters who are going to come in and upset the attitude of the team and upset that dressing room. And I'm starting to realise a little bit now why Moyes, you know, didn't rush in and bring in the wrong people, because I do think that a lot of the reason why we've been in the form that we have is this togetherness, and it's got to be right. And you know, I wouldn't want to just bring him in just because he is ex-West Ham, just because he knows the club. He comes in, he's got the same bad attitude. He hasn't grown up enough, and you know, he just upsets the apple cart, mate. We don't want that at all.
Yeah, I mean, he played, it says 8 games in 5 years. He's 6'4". He's 23. I don't know much about him, but I'm one of those that just because he came from our system, I do want to see. That's why a lot of people ask me, Jazz, or any youngsters that should be playing. I said, mate, I don't follow under 23s. I don't know. I'll wait until they're good enough. The manager says to start, and then I'll watch them. And I'm not one of those that goes down a blind alley and starts pushing players in or says, you know, better than what they are. So, yeah, just because he was in our youth team, I've got no personal love to bring him back or anything like that. And I don't think he's a David Moyes player anyway. I don't think if he's done that in the past, I know you can forgive, but I think David's quite a hard call like that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. No, I'd agree.
It is what it is. You going Sunday or?
I am, mate. I will be there Sunday. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, mate, it's this. I know people are all looking forward to Lyon, but mate, Sunday's important. We've got to get there, and we've got to get behind them. We've got to get behind them, mate.
And mate, Sunday 2:00 is so much better than Sunday 4:00. You know.
Yes, I agree with that. A 1,000,000%, mate. 1,000,000%.
Yeah, that kind
but
of.
Yeah, we've got to get behind them, mate. We've got to carry them over Sunday. And anyone who's thinking maybe I don't have to go because Thursday's just around the corner, don't think like that. Get there Sunday. Get behind them. Let's make sure we get the win that we need, and let's make sure we've got these games again next season. Because if we all just try and write it off and worry about Thursday, if we don't get this European football again next season, who knows when it will come back. So let's just make sure we've got European football again next year, mate.
Yeah, I don't see Moyes resting anyone because we don't really have many options. So he usually goes for the same team. Just one question before we go. I wanted Areola to play against Tottenham, mate, on the back of the Europa performance, but it's just not going to happen. So
I had a bit of a dig at Gio because Gio done this video recently on the sort of the tier list of signings that David Moyes.
Oh yeah, I saw the advertising. I didn't see it, but I saw. Yeah.
So he put Dawson in the top tier, and he put Areola in decent. And I was like, mate, that performance against Seville was just unbelievable. He deserves top tier rankings for that because it was superb. And mate, I like Fabianski. I think we all know Fabianski's been a great servant to West Ham, and he's pushed for Hammer of the Year every single year, and he's been a fantastic goalkeeper for us. And actually, in the last game we played at the London Stadium, I slipped my mind who it was, the Villa game. He actually played really well, and he made a really good save. But Areola's just got that little bit more youthfulness about him. He's got that presence of coming out faster. He's more of a sweeper keeper. He's just, for me, and Gio knocked him a little bit for saying he should have already taken the number 1 spot. I actually think he's done enough to take the number 1 spot. Just because Moyes ain't given it to him isn't his fault. I actually think he's never put a step wrong when he's played in goal for us in all the opportunities he's had. And I actually think he's been superb. And that game against Seville, mate, that save he made to stop them going 1-0 up was phenomenal. And I'm with you. I would have played him, mate. I would definitely have played him.
Yeah, and if someone does really like Johnston, he's going to be free. Just grab both of them for 14 million. Don't worry about the wages. And Fabianski, he makes me nervous, mate. There's a mistake in him every game. I know he always changes a fan's opinion because he usually pulls off 1 or 2 good shot stops. But in terms of distribution, coming out, I think the defenders get nervous sometimes. Areola, you know, he's going to come out so fast, commanding, and he'll get better with every game, isn't it? Really. So
And then what you just said there, mate, why do we always have to have this one or the other situation? Why can't we have a few players battling for that position and competing against each other and keeping each other on their toes?
Yeah.
I don't see why we have to have this. We've got one player in a position and nothing else. That's no good. We've got to have multiple. And like you said, when, do you bring in Phillips and you have Souček, Rice and Phillips? Mate, I want us to get into a place where we can actually look at the other team and think, who's the right players for this team today? Who is going to be the player who best will combat their weaknesses or, make us a bit more solid or whatever? Why can't we get to that stage? We should. So go and get both of them, mate.
Yeah, mate. It's definitely, mate. We're going to close off now, but you're right. Look at Liverpool's squad. It's frightening. Newcastle, Villa next season, they'll have more players on the bench, mate. And Spurs and Conte, that will keep us amused over the summer, that kind of EastEnders going on, really. So, yeah, everyone get there on Sunday, support the team. If we start well, hopefully that carries on to Thursday. And I'm sure, God, we've got to outdo the last Europa night. Oh, that's going to be hard, but hopefully we can. I'm going to take half the day off as usual, mate, for Europa and get there early in good spirits, mate, and then see how it goes. So, yeah, thank you for joining me, Frankie. Lots of interesting points have come out on a non-sort of match day sort of week, wasn't it? So, yeah, we're back into it, 2 games a week. So, yeah, hope you have a lovely weekend, mate, and get ready for Sunday, mate. So come on, you Irons. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Take care.